master samurai spent 30 years perfecting a single sword strike. 30 years. One movement. Not 30 different techniques. Not 1,000 fancy combinations. One strike. 3 decades of his life were dedicated to a motion that takes less than a second. His student watches him practice and finally asks the question that's been burning inside him. Master, when will I achieve mastery? The old warrior stops, looks at his student, and gives an answer that changes everything. You already have. You just don't know how to see it yet. The student is confused, frustrated. He's been training for 5 years and he feels nowhere close to mastery. He looks at his master and sees perfection. He looks at himself and sees failure. This is your problem too. You want mastery in 30 days, not 30 years. You're looking for the destination when you should be walking the path. Here's the brutal truth. Real mastery takes longer than you want. Way longer. And it starts sooner than you think. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you what mastery actually looks like. Not the Instagram version. Not the highlight reel. The real thing. The samurai version. The version that changes your life. I'm going to give you 5 principles. 5 ancient disciplines that separate those who achieve excellence from those who quit halfway. And by the end, you'll understand something profound. Something that will change how you approach every single thing you do for the rest of your life. But here's the question that should terrify you. What if everything you think about mastery is completely backwards? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn cannot be unlearned. And once you see it, you can never go back to the way you were before. If you leave now, you'll stay exactly where you are. Frustrated. Stuck. Wondering why everyone else seems to get there while you're still struggling. But if you stay, everything changes. Right now. The mastery myth. Why you're chasing the wrong thing. Let's start by destroying the lie you've been sold. You think mastery is a destination, place you arrive at, a certificate you receive, a moment when you finally get to say, I've made it. Social media has sold you this fantasy. The overnight success, the instant expert, the master who appeared from nowhere with perfect skill and zero struggle. It's all a lie, every bit of it. Here's the truth that will either free you or crush you. Mastery is not a destination. It's a path. And you never arrive. You only walk. The samurai understood this at a level most modern people cannot comprehend. They started training at age 7. And they trained until death. 50, 60, 70 years of daily practice. And at the end of their lives, the greatest masters would say the same thing. I am still learning. Not false modesty, truth, because they understood what you're about to understand. The word mastery itself is misleading. It suggests completion. It suggests you finish. It suggests there's a point where you stop and say done. There is no done. There is only deeper. The Japanese have a concept called shuhari. 3 stages. Follow the rules. Break the rules. Transcend the rules. But here's what most people miss. These aren't stages you complete and leave behind. They're stages you cycle through forever. At higher and higher levels. Infinitely. You follow. You break. You transcend. Then you find a new level and follow again. Break again. Transcend again. Forever. This is why it matters right now in 2025. You're drowning in quick fix promises. Master anything in 30 days. Become an expert in 10 hours. Hack your way to excellence. And every time you chase that lie, you abandon the real path. The only path. The long path. Here's what changes when you accept this. When you stop chasing mastery as a destination and start walking it as a path, the pressure releases. The anxiety fades. The comparison stops. You're not behind. You're not ahead. You're just walking. And that's exactly where you should be. So let me ask you this. Go to the comments right now. What's one skill you've been trying to master? Drop it below. Be specific. And then answer this honestly. Are you chasing the destination? Or are you walking the path? Because if you're chasing the destination, you've already lost. If you're walking the path, you've already won. Even if you can't see it yet, write it down, make it real, then come back. Because now I'm going to show you how to walk. The first principle, SHOSHIN, beginner's mind. First principle, SHOSHIN, beginner's mind. And this one is going to challenge everything you think you know about expertise. The samurai had a paradox. The more you know, the more you must approach with beginner's mind. Sounds backwards, right? You'd think mastery means you know everything. That expertise means certainty. That excellence means having all the answers. Exactly backwards. There's a Zen saying, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. Listen to that again. The expert has fewer possibilities. Because the expert thinks they already know. And the moment you think you know, you stop seeing. You stop questioning. You stop exploring. You stop growing. You've closed the door on mastery by believing you've achieved it. There's a famous story. A renowned swordsman travels to visit a Zen master. He wants to learn about enlightenment. But really, he wants to show off his knowledge. He's an expert. Everyone knows his name. The master invites him for tea. Begins pouring. The cup fills. The tea reaches the brim. And the master keeps pouring. Tea spills over the edge. Onto the table. Onto the floor. The swordsman jumps up. Stop. The cup is full. You're making a mess. The master sets down the pot. Looks at him calmly. Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and knowledge. How can I show you anything unless you first empty your cup? This is your problem. You're full. Full of what you think you know. Full of your methods. Full of your certainty. And that fullness is blocking your mastery. The person who thinks they've mastered communication stops truly listening. They're just waiting to talk. The person who thinks they've mastered their craft stops learning. They're just repeating what they already know. Masters remain students forever. Not because they haven't learned enough, but because they know there's always another layer. Always another depth. Always something they're missing. Here's your practice. Today, when you approach your skill, empty your cup. Approach it as if you know nothing. Ask yourself, what am I missing? What would a beginner notice that I've stopped seeing? What assumption am I making that's wrong? You haven't mastered it. You're mastering it. Always present tense. Always ongoing. Always incomplete. The moment you think you're done learning is the moment you stop being a master. Empty your cup. Every single day. That's the first principle. If you're serious about this path, if you're committed to real mastery, subscribe to Still Blade right now. Because this channel is dedicated to walking the path with you. Ancient warrior wisdom for modern mastery. Hit subscribe. Stay on the path. More is coming. The second principle, shokunin, craftsman spirit. Second principle, shokunin, the craftsman spirit. This is where most people reveal they're not serious. Because shokunin demands something most modern people refuse to give. Infinite care. Not just doing the work. Honoring the work. Every detail. Every moment. Every invisible part that no one will ever see. In Japan, there are sushi masters who spend 3 years learning to properly cook rice before they're allowed to touch fish. 3 years. On rice. The Western mind recoils at this. 3 years on rice? That's insane. That's obsessive. That's a waste of time. No, that's shokunin. That's the craftsman spirit. That's what separates masters from people who pretend to be masters. Because the master knows this truth. If I cannot perfect the foundation, I have no right to build on it. You want to skip the foundation. You want to jump straight to the impressive parts. The flashy techniques. The advanced moves. The parts people will notice and praise. And that's why you'll never achieve mastery. Because mastery isn't built on flash. It's built on foundation. Boring, repetitive, invisible foundation. Amateurs rush to the impressive parts. Masters perfect the boring parts. Think about this in your own skill. The writer who wants to write novels but hasn't mastered basic grammar. The athlete who wants advanced techniques but can't execute proper form. The entrepreneur who wants to scale but hasn't perfected one simple offering. You're building on sand and wondering why everything keeps collapsing. Shokunin says every detail matters. Even the parts no one sees. Especially the parts no one sees. Because you see them, and you know. And that knowing either builds your mastery or erodes it. There's a Japanese furniture maker who spends hours perfecting the back of a drawer. The part that faces the wall. the part no one will ever see. Someone asks him why. No one will ever notice this. He responds, I will notice, and the wood will know, and that is enough. This is the separation point. This is where the path narrows and most people turn back. Because excellence in small things compounds into excellence in large things. But mediocrity in small things, that compounds too, into a life of almost, of good enough, of I could have been. Here's your practice. Choose one boring foundational element of your craft. Just one. This week, dedicate yourself to perfecting only that. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive, just foundation, and watch what happens. Not immediately, not in a week, but over months, over years. You'll look back and realize that this was the moment. This was when you stopped pretending and started becoming. Go to the comments. What's the boring foundation in your skill that you've been skipping? The rice you refuse to cook. The drawer back you refuse to sand. Name it below, because accountability starts here, and mastery follows. There are no shortcuts to mastery, but there is a path, and every step matters, even the boring ones, especially the boring ones. The third principle, Kaizen, continuous improvement. Third principle, Kaizen, continuous improvement. You've heard this before. 1% better every day compounds into 37 times better in 1 year. The math is beautiful. The concept is inspiring. But here's what no one tells you about Kaizen. It's not about dramatic improvement. It's about noticing. Most people practice unconsciously. They show up. They go through the motions. They repeat what they did yesterday. They leave. They call it practice. That's not practice. That's just repetition. And repetition without reflection doesn't create mastery. It creates habits. Sometimes bad ones. Masters practice with awareness. After every training session, they reflect. What worked? What didn't? What felt off? What felt right? What tiny adjustment can I make tomorrow? The samurai would finish his daily sword practice and sit in meditation. Not to rest, to review, to replay every movement in his mind, to find the micro-adjustments that would create micro-improvements. This is the discipline of micro-observation. And it's the difference between 10 years of experience and 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. Here's your application. Don't just do your work. Study your work. If you're learning to speak, record yourself and watch it back. Not to criticize, to observe. Where did my energy drop? Where did I lose clarity? Where was I truly present and where was I performing? If you're building a skill, journal after every practice session. Not long essays. 3 sentences. What worked? What didn't? What I'll adjust tomorrow. Ask yourself this question every single day. If I could change one small thing tomorrow, what would create the most improvement? Not 10 things. 1 thing. Because you can change 1 thing. You cannot sustain changing 10 things. And here's why tiny improvements beat massive overhauls every single time. Because you can sustain small forever. You cannot sustain large for long. You try to overhaul your entire practice routine. You last 2 weeks and collapse back to 0. You adjust 1 small thing. You sustain it forever. And that 1 small thing compounds. Today you're 1% better. In 30 days, 30% better. In 1 year, unrecognizable. But only if you notice. Only if you reflect. Only if you adjust. The Japanese have a proverb. Fall 7 times, stand 8. Most people think this is about persistence after failure. It's not. It's about adjustment. You don't just stand up the same way you fell. You stand up differently. You adjust. You learn. You're not failing. You're calibrating. And calibration is how mastery happens. End each day with 1 question. What's the smallest thing I can improve tomorrow? Not the biggest. The smallest. And do that tomorrow. Then ask again. Then do it again. This is Kaizen. This is the path. This is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not through 1 massive breakthrough. Through 10,000 tiny adjustments. Day after day after day. That's the third principle. Notice. Reflect. Adjust. Repeat. Forever. The fourth principle, Gamen, enduring the unbearable with dignity. Fourth principle, gamen, enduring what seems unbearable with patience and dignity. And this is where 95% of people abandon the path. Right here, in what I call the messy middle. The path of mastery is long, brutally long, longer than you want to accept, longer than feels fair, longer than you think you can sustain. And most people quit, not because they lack talent, not because they lack knowledge, but because they cannot endure the middle. Here's what the middle looks like. You're no longer a beginner. The excitement is gone. The novelty has worn off. The quick wins have stopped coming. But you're not yet a master. The recognition hasn't arrived. The results aren't impressive. No one's noticing your work. No one's praising your progress. You're in the gap. The long, boring, invisible gap between starting and arriving. And this gap can last years, decades, a lifetime. This is where 95% of people quit. Because it's boring. Because progress feels invisible. Because it seems pointless. They tell themselves, I'm just not talented at this. Or this isn't for me. Or I'll try something else. But the truth? They just couldn't endure the middle. They wanted the destination without walking the path. The samurai understanding is completely different. This is not a phase to survive. This is the path. The middle is not the obstacle. The middle is the mastery. There's a story. A student complains to his master. I've been training for 5 years and I'm barely better than when I started. The master looks at him. You'll train for 50 years and still feel the same. That's how you know you're on the path. The student is horrified. 50 years of feeling like I'm making no progress? The master nods. Yes, because progress at the master level is measured in millimeters. And millimeters feel like nothing. But millimeters over 50 years? That's the distance between good and legendary. You need to hear this. Stop waiting to feel like a master. Stop waiting for external validation. Stop waiting for someone to notice and tell you you've made it. The work itself is the validation. The path itself is the achievement. Showing up in the messy middle when no one's watching? That's mastery. This is gamen. Enduring what seems unbearable. The boredom, the invisibility, the slow progress, the doubt, the years of work that no one sees. You endure it with dignity, not complaining, not seeking pity, not demanding recognition. You endure it because you've chosen this path. And the path doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about your consistency. Here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Be brutally honest. How long have you been working on your skill? And have you ever felt like quitting because progress feels too slow? Share your timeline. Share your struggle. Because when you realize everyone on this path feels the same thing, it stops being a reason to quit and starts being a reason to continue. The truth that will either break you or make you. Mastery doesn't reward intensity. It rewards consistency. Day after day, year after year, decade after decade. Can you endure that? Can you walk when walking feels pointless? Can you practice when practice feels invisible? That's gamen. That's the fourth principle. And that's what separates those who achieve mastery from those who almost did. The fifth principle, SHOSHIN, no mind state. Fifth and final principle, SHOSHIN, the no mind state. And this is the ultimate paradox of mastery. You work for decades to think less. In the beginning, every single movement requires thought. Where do I put my hands? How do I position my body? What comes next? Am I doing this right? The mind is loud, constant, interfering with every action. But at mastery, no thought, no hesitation, no self-consciousness. The body responds before the mind can interfere. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake up. And you'll approach your craft with beginner's mind. Empty cup, fresh eyes, infinite possibility. You'll honor the boring details, the invisible parts, the foundation that no one sees. You'll notice what worked and what didn't. You'll adjust by 1%. You'll get slightly better than yesterday. You'll endure the middle, the slow progress, the lack of recognition, the long path ahead, and you'll let go of trying. You'll trust the process. You'll allow the 10,000 hours to do their work. This is the path of mastery, and it's walked by those who love the walking more than the arriving. Walk it with honor. Walk it with discipline. Walk it with everything you have. Your path continues tomorrow, but it begins again right now. This moment, this practice, this choice. Subscribe to Still Blade. Walk this path with us. Ancient warrior wisdom for modern mastery. We're building a community of people who understand that the path never ends. And that's exactly why we keep walking. The destination is a lie. The path is the truth. And you're already on it. Now walk. Before you close this video, commit to one thing. Just one. Choose one of the 5 principles. SHOSHIN, SHOKUNIN, Kaizen, Gamen, Mushin. Pick the one that hit you hardest. The one you need most right now. And practice it tomorrow. Not perfectly. Not dramatically. Just practice it. Empty your cup. Honor the details. Improve by 1%. Endure the middle. Let go of trying. Whichever you choose, do it. Then do it again the next day. And the next. Because mastery isn't built in moments of inspiration. It's built